Hey everybody, this is Jake here on the Men's Weekly Mental Health Check-in. If you are following the link from Facebook or Instagram and you saw the short intro video, or you're listening on Spotify or Buzzsprout, then welcome. Welcome back. Welcome to new people, newcomers. This is just the segment of my either YouTube channel or Spotify that I talk about men's mental health issues, and it's mostly my personal journey, the different tools that I've used to get out of my own head, to become a better version of myself or the best version that I can possibly be of myself. And an issue that I don't think we as men take as seriously as we should. Uh, I don't think society had taken it really all that seriously up until maybe like the recent decade, I want to say, because a lot of the research that I've done on these topics, and as I've grown and I've learned more, I feel like it's really taken a big step. But a lot of these studies really started to matter or take root in like the middle of the 2010s or so, from what I can tell. Now, I'm not positive about that, but the research that I've done on these particular subjects, it doesn't really look like this dates really all that far back. Some of this stuff, um, you know, or it wasn't really taken all that seriously as it probably should have. But we are here now, and I'm glad you're here with me. And if you glean something from this video or any of my other videos, well then I've done what I've set out to do with this stuff, is get the information out there, uh, hopefully open your mind to it, fellas, or if you know somebody who may benefit from this, from some of these talks, or however, just send them on over here. If they need somebody to listen to, send them my way. If you don't know if you can do it, I believe in you. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. And if you don't believe in yourself, then I believe in you. And I'll believe in you until you believe in yourself. And I will believe in you after you believe in yourself. So just know that you're not alone, okay? It's the most important thing. All right. As the thumbnail or title suggests, we're going to talk about forgiveness. Forgiveness on your journey to becoming a better man. It's pretty hard when you think about it, you think about forgiveness and think about, you may be thinking about forgiving other people. Well, that is, one aspect of it. One that's almost as important, if not more important, is being able to forgive yourself. Because if you never forgive yourself, you're going to be sitting in regret and guilt. And that just adds other negative side effects. You're not going to be as prone to be as productive as you would want to be. It'll lead to depression. It'll lead to bad habits like alcohol or drugs. Guaranteed. I can guarantee you that because I've been there. I have definitely been there. I'll give you all some personal examples of some of that as we go along in today's video and or episode, however you're watching this. I like to do research on any of the topics that I talk about, and I come with receipts. And that just means that I'm going to have links to all the statistics or data or articles that I talk about in the episode, and they will be in the description. So if you ever have an issue or a question, or if you want to check the validity or the accuracy of what I'm talking about, you can follow the links and that'll take you directly to the source. Okay. And if you do find that maybe possibly that I am probably inaccurate on something, or you find maybe a more credible source, then you can send it my way and I will make the necessary correction. And I will admit that I didn't have it completely right. And that's fine too, because hey, sometimes you're proven wrong and it happens in life. But I'm giving you the most accurate information that I've found and that I personally have used. So let's get on to it. So, a study in 2015 was published in Personality and Individual Differences. It found that men who forgive themselves report higher levels of self esteem and overall life satisfaction. That's because forgiveness clears emotional roadblocks, making room for growth and self improvement. Without it, you're often stuck in cycles of regret or anger, holding yourself back from reaching your full potential. I want you to stew and sit on that for just a second, and then you close your eyes if you want, but think about that for just a sec, just a minute, and think about how many scenarios that you play in your head from years ago, whether it's regret or anger or guilt or whatever. Think about like how many times do you think about that one particular situation, that one particular subject? Think about something personal. And if you can't at this very moment, well, I'm going to share something with y'all. I had I had sat in guilt and regret about something that I would play in my mind over and over. And this was a this was a personal thing. I didn't realize I didn't realize how much. Now, it didn't affect me to the extent that it affected my sisters. I didn't realize how much guilt I felt when my parents got divorced, or how much it affected me. And then I started to compound that, that guilt or that anger and that frustration. And I didn't correlate that had affected me in a negative way, and it had led me to down a dark path to some really bad habits. Now, I know that my parents hadn't gotten divorced because of us, because of the children. They were divorcing because of their own unhappiness and the relationship, it had played out the way that it played out, and it just wasn't going to work. It wasn't, the compatibility wasn't there, and that's what happens. It happens, and it is what it is. But I took a little bit of personal guilt in the fact that I had caught on to something that was going on. Something was going on. I think, and it didn't start when I was older. I had seen it on and off as I was growing up. I won't go into all of those details, but I noticed subtle things and not so subtle things. And being the oldest, I really didn't know how to process it. And I think what uh, what killed me the most was hearing my sisters talk about the time, because I was already gone. I was in Italy at the time. I believe it was 2010 or 2011. I was in the Air Force. I was gone, and that's when I was told about the divorce. But I didn't know really how much it would affect me, but also the guilt that I felt for not being there for my sisters in that kind of a times they're younger. But not just so much that, but also the guilt that I felt and the anger and regret that I felt for not being able to protect them from that, from the negative side effects of the negative side effects of when your parents go through that, and what it can do to them. I can't even imagine, aside from what they've told me, um but not being the older brother, being the protector. I love my sisters to death. And it hurt more that I couldn't be there to protect them, or to just help in some sort of a way. It it really it really ate at my core for a while. And a negative side effect of that is actually, I remember when I was over there in Italy, I drank a lot. Uh, I drank a lot, and I was turning to that to fix, or to not deal with how I was feeling, to not admit it. And it is a reality of that time, and I sat with that for a while, because I almost got in trouble for the excessive drinking. And yeah, and I'm telling you, that snowballed. I felt bad about the drinking, but I didn't deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know that anything was really wrong, or that I was turning to that. At the time, I didn't know that I was turning to that to hide from the reality of the situation, and the reality of how I was feeling mentally and emotionally. And I mean, I've it took me a while to forgive myself for that. It did. It took me a while to realize it, and then forgive myself for how I handled that. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know any better, really. So I'm telling you, forgiving yourself matters a ton, and it can help you not stray and not turn to bad habits, destructive, self-sabotaging habits, like what I just told you. Why does forgiving yourself matter? That's one. It's it's easy to beat yourself up over poor decisions and failures, as I just told you. It's you may think that holding on to that guilt is some form of accountability, But it's, you can only hold on to that for so long before you, I mean, if you hold on to it, if you hold on to that guilt and you just replay it over and over, there's no, you'll miss the signs, you'll miss the paths forward for real change, for real progress, for you to dig yourself out of that hole. Because if you sit in there, here's what's going to happen. You're going to lose self-esteem, you're going to lose self-respect, confidence. That gets you nowhere. You're not going to and because all that compounds, you're not going to want to take the necessary steps to get out, or you're going to tell yourself, it's what I deserve. I've told myself only too many times, yeah, well, I deserve it. I did nothing to get out of there. I just sat in that mindset for a long time. 2017 study in the Journal of Counseling Psychology found that self-forgiveness is directly linked to lower rates of depression and anxiety. I've talked about this in other videos. Depression and anxiety leads to can lead to chronic health issues, heart disease, obviously mental instability, emotional instability. That all that stuff leads to down one road, and that's self-destruction. And don't want you to I don't want you to be on that path. So, forgiving yourself, paramount. Paramount to you moving forward. You've got to learn to do that first, okay? Don't sit and wallow in self-pity and regret and guilt. All right, that's step 1. You know, just as important as forgiving yourself is forgiving other people. Is just the other half of the coin. I mean, whether your parents did you wrong when you were growing up, or your partner betrayed your trust, your boss, whatever. I mean, insert situation, circumstance here. Um, it's important that you learn to forgive other people as much as it is you forgiving yourself. There's studies that show holding grudges increases stress and negativity, and negatively impacts your health, physical health. That's true. That's true. Talking about the work boss, I've had some pretty crappy bosses, but I I never forgave them for any of the negative impacts they had on my work, but also that they don't own, they weren't in charge of how I worked, if that makes any sense. I knew I did good work, and I would resent them for how they treated us. But as I grew up, as I've grown up, I realized, the way they treat us is probably how they treat themselves. So I shouldn't have put so much weight into how they treated me or us or my coworkers, and more weight into just the understanding that that's a projection of them, how they treat other people. And I can either let that affect me and my mood and a slew of other things, or I can keep doing me and keep doing the work that I know how to do, which is good work, hard work, and not worry about them, and just forgive them, because that says more about them than it does about me, really. If they're treating me and other people like that. So I think that's extremely important, forgiving other people. And it's definitely, it impacts your physical health. Like, if you're thinking, and I mentioned this in the other, in forgiving yourself, but if that's what you're focused on, you're not going to want to do, like, say it affects you that much and all you're bringing is negativity, you're going to lose the will to want to work. Really. You're not going to want to do the hard work that they're requesting of you, or you're going to be bitter and you're going to do the bare minimum. That's not a place that you want to be. You want people to see the work that you do. You want people to take you seriously. You want people to really depend on you. So, in that negativity, if you bring that to work, I mean, you're lending all your energy to that negativity. So then when you get off of work, you're not going to have the energy to do, or you're going to carry that negativity with you. And if that's all you're thinking, I mean, that leads to high blood pressure. Your heart rate's going to increase during stressful situations. You're gonna put your body into a state of fight or flight, and all that stuff compounds, and that's all gonna be linked down below. This was actually in a study, a 2009 study in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine. Link's gonna be down in the description. So don't let other people's actions define you, define how you act, how you respond. So forgiveness, it's deeply tied to emotional maturity. Mature men know that life is messy. Well, mature people, but mature men know that life is messy. People are not perfect. And if you want to grow, you're going to have to embrace these truths. If you let every little thing bother you, then what room is there to grow, really? If you hold on to that guilt, it's going to keep you in a reactive, immature state. If you're constantly in a reactive state, I mean, good luck to you. You won't be able to process the more complex emotions and take a broader view of life. You really won't be able to. Now, I'll stick with that, what I was telling you earlier, and I'll add on to that story about my parents' divorce and the effects that it had that I didn't even really recognize. And when I say this, when I explain this, I don't want I'm saying this as a realization, and I know that, and I love my parents to death. Okay. I know that parents do the best with what they have and what they know and what they've learned. And that's the same with me. I had done the best that I knew how my whole life, and I realized that adjustments need to be made. So I didn't realize that I hadn't really forgiven I hadn't really forgiven my parents for some of the stuff that I witnessed when I would go home. And this was in the early years of their divorce, of their separation and divorce, and the years following that. But the way that they I can understand how you would go off the rails with somebody that you'd been with for decades, you know, It's a blow, and it is what it is. But seeing how they handled some of it was really disheartening, and it kind of in a way disillusioned my idea of what a relationship is, or what marriage, well, more specifically, what marriage is. And I didn't want marriage at all because of that, because I saw how that was going, and I was discouraged. Like, I mean, my my initial thought and my thought for several years after that's like, why would anybody want to get married? I've seen the two strongest people that I know that were together forever my whole life. And then now, it's now they're here. I don't understand. Like, why would you want to get married if this is the end result? I didn't realize that I carried that, and and my outlook on relationships had been tampered with, and I hadn't addressed it, and I hadn't really forgiven them for that, for how that was making me feel. And I held it against them, and I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. So now that I've let it go, I can move forward, and you know, I can be happy in my marriage, and work on all of the and embracing the good lessons and undoing the bad ones. That's what it means to be a better you, to be a better version of yourself. Get rid of those old bad habits that were chaining you down to a past self that was just there for your detriment, and not there to propel you forward to new heights, to new heights that you know that you can reach. It really is unfortunate. So, how do you what kind of steps can you take to forgive yourself and others? One I talked about earlier, and that's you have to acknowledge it. You have to recognize it first. Okay, you can't say that the guilt is, or the hurt is your way of holding yourself accountable. Suppressing or minimizing it, it's only going to prolong the healing process. So you need to recognize it. You need to separate. Step number 2, you need to separate the person from the action. People, other people, and then including yourself, they're not defined by their worst moments. It sucks, yeah, but doesn't need to define you or anybody else. Reflect on the circumstances, the motivations, or the pressures that led to the mistake. That's what it means to get outside of yourself and then look in. It's my equivalent would be like astral projection. It's hard to do, but it can absolutely be done. You have to get outside of yourself, however that looks. Meditation works great for me. The therapist works great. Get an outside perspective. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but, you know, it's absolutely, absolutely possible. Once you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So you need to get outside of yourself and then look in. Step 3. This one is a little tough, but maybe rewrite the narrative. So what can you gather from that situation or that circumstance, and then reframe it, right? You can do that. You can do that if you're like, this is another example. You're constantly in a negative state. Rewrite the narrative. Say, all right, this happened. Instead of me being stuck here, ask yourself, what did this teach me and how can I grow from it? I mean, I guarantee you, if you reframe the narrative and reframe the question, you're going to get better results. You're going to get different results, positive results. 4, practice empathy. Try to understand the perspective of the person who you hurt. And like I said before, this doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, but having empathy can dissolve resentment. This is what this honestly is what we need to do as a society. Is we need to practice empathy. We need to see the other side's perspective before we just start ridiculing and calling names and all the vitriol and everything. And the same applies to your personal relationships, personal life. You can use this same tactic on yourself too. What was I thinking at the time? How did I handle this situation? How can I get out of that? How can I improve? Can I change my thought process to produce positive results? I know it's not a one size fits all, but seeking help, even just to start, a therapist, somebody that doesn't have any skin in the game, can help you really provide outside perspective onto what they can see in you, because we are our own worst critics, but we're the last to recognize that we need to change something. Remember that. Write that down. Now, this doesn't mean that it's going to go away right away. You know, it's not always instantaneous, right? Forgiveness, but you can take steps. Sometimes it takes several baby steps, but you'll get there. It's a process. You can revisit the emotions, but the way that you handle them when you revisit them, it's like recommitting to that decision to forgive, because you don't want to stay in that state. So if you have to go in there with an open mindset that you're going to rewrite the narrative. Like, I'm revisiting it. I haven't completely gotten over it, but I'm taking the steps. I'm almost there. I'm right there. I'm on the precipice. So you can rewrite the narrative is a great thing, because it can be used for, if you have negative thoughts or if you're negative to yourself, it's outstanding. It helps propel you and get you to the next stage. So if you practice forgiveness, you're going to break so many different cycles. You're going to improve your mental clarity, mental and emotional clarity. It's going to pave the way to your personal growth and get you the results that you want and get you to where you need to be, to where you know that you can be. That's an exciting thought. I think it is. Well, these are just some of the things that I've used and some of the personal experiences that I've had with forgiveness. There's several more. There are several more, and I could talk about them in later episodes, but because it it's not just forgiveness, you know. Those stories can encompass a broader subject matter, but today we're talking about forgiveness. So take what you can from the information that I've given you, but remember this: if you take nothing else, learn to forgive yourself. Give yourself some grace. Be nicer to yourself. If you're hard on yourself, be nice. Be nicer. Rewrite the narrative in your head. You know, hey man, why is today going to be the greatest day ever? Why is today going to be better than yesterday? Why is the next day going to be better than this last one? And see how your mood and your physical, see how your mood changes, and also how you change physically. I think you're going to see some crazy awesome improvement if you can practice that. Practice, wake up and say something, and be grateful. Name three things that you're grateful for, and that's going to get you really on the path to empathy and forgiveness, and rewriting that internal narrative. It has for me. I hope this video helped you on forgiving yourself and others. Hope it helped you in some way, even if it's a really small one. Let me know how I did, and if you know somebody that's going through it that can benefit from some of these videos or one of these videos, and send them over. I'm not a licensed therapist or psychiatrist. This is just my journey. I hope it helps, and if it's helped one of y'all, then I've done what I set out to do. I appreciate anybody watching this, anybody that's returned, or anybody that's new. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. You can do it. I believe in you. If you don't believe in yourself, then I'm here to tell you that I believe in you. Don't give up. Okay? So, it's Thursday. It's almost the end of the week. Friday's almost upon us, folks. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and a great weekend, and a great holiday. I'll see you on the next video. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.